my main thing I did over break was I went to Disney World. Now, we were there for like 6 park days. We stayed at the Art of Animation. Absolutely incredible trip. The most fun I've ever had at Disney. But one thing really stuck out to me, and that was Disney has a lightning lane problem. Now, reel it back. So, Disney introduces FastPass. There's a whole documentary on YouTube about it. I'm not going to go into the weeds of it. So, FastPass was originally a paper pass, and you got 3 a day. And you could go to the ride, and you would take a ticket and get a time for that ride. And then you could come back at that time and skip the standby line. That was the entire point. 3 rides a day, you got to choose a line that you were going to skip. So, what was it, like 2019 maybe? Like, was it when Genie Plus was announced?
No, Genie Plus was 2021.
2021.
Because they still had FastPass. And keep in mind, the big component here is that FastPass was free.
It was free.
You didn't have to pay for it. And that stayed until 2020 when they closed for COVID, which, by the way, was 4 years ago. And that blows my mind.
Daggum.
That it is 2024, but that 2020 was 4 years ago. It doesn't feel like it's been that long.
Girl, that's crazy.
But,
so, yeah. So FastPass was free. You got 3 a day. You could go get a time and come back and skip the line. So Disney Plus is not Disney Plus. Genie Plus is introduced, and now on the app you can go and get what they call a lightning lane, which is just a stupider name for FastPass. I don't know. We still call it a FastPass. That's what everyone says.
Exactly.
So the problem with lightning lane is that not only does it cost $15 per person per day, but you have to buy it the day of, and to get a lightning lane that you want, you have to be ready to go at 7 a.m. on the app. Like, refresh at 7. Otherwise, they're pretty much all gone.
Yeah.
So, not only that, but if you want to ride a big, like, popular ride, it's an additional, like, $18 to $25 a person for just that lightning lane for the big ride. So if you want to ride Guardians, you will be paying an additional $25 a person on top of your Genie Plus. So, I kid you not, to get a lightning lane for the Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom, keep in mind, we've already spent $15 a day per person on Genie Plus. To get an additional lightning lane for Flight of Passage was $28 a person. $28.
I mean, it's a conversation for a different day, but that ride is not worth $28. I'm sorry.
The thing is, people are doing it. They're paying it.
Well, yeah, duh.
And here's another problem, is they're hardcore overselling the lightning lanes. So, when we were there and we did Smuggler's Run, that's the Star Wars where you fly the Millennium Falcon, we had a lightning lane for 11 a.m. We show up at 11 a.m. You have the hour window to show up. We got there at 11, scan in, and the line was outside for the lightning lane. We still had to wait like 25 minutes in the lightning lane. Granted, that's still so much better than the 250-minute wait in the standby, but we've lost the point of the lightning lane. The lightning lane was, the point was to be walk-on. You're supposed to be able to say, hey, here's my $15 a person, grant me access to just walk on. That was the entire point. Now they're overselling them because they know people will pay, and you can still wait 30 minutes in the lightning lane, which is ridiculous. And what it's doing is it's making both lines a lot longer, making everyone unhappy. So, like, the standby line is 230 minutes out the door for Smuggler's Run, which isn't worth 230-minute wait. We did the math.
I don't think there's a single ride at Disney that's worth a 230-minute wait. And
Right.
Smuggler's Run is definitely not that ride.
That's not it. If there was a ride worth it, it would be Rise of the Resistance. So, like,
Or Guardians.
Or Guardians. That's true. So this is a problem because, like, now you have to honor the lightning lanes. So they're letting all these lightning lane people go, which makes the standby line a lot longer because your ratio of lightning lane to standby is a lot different. You have to let more lightning lane people through, which makes the standby longer. But also, they're overselling the lightning lanes to where you still have the line out the door. And so both lines are getting longer, and it just kind of sucks. And so, like, we went to Guardians of the Galaxy, and we had the lightning lane. We spent, like, $15 a person to have the lightning lane and still waited 35 minutes in the lightning lane. And it just made the standby, like, impossibly long. And so I don't really know what the future of this looks like. I feel like this is a broken system, and at some point, it's just going to keep getting expensive to the point where no one can pay for it because your Disney vacation is already, like, putting you in credit card debt. And so it's like, you know, what's the point of no return for Disney? Because all these people are they're going to Disney World, and it's super expensive, and you're paying like $180 for a park ticket.
Yeah.
And then you're to get on more than 3 rides a day, you essentially need Genie Plus. Otherwise, you'll spend your entire day waiting in line, and that's exhausting, and it's usually like stupid hot, and it's just not worth it. And so you're spending $180 a day to stand in lines all day. So they promise you, you know, if you pay $15 a person, you don't have to do that. But then we're still ending up doing it. And so I'm just really confused. And when we were there, we did Toy Story Mania Lightning Lane. And the Lightning Lane, again, was around Toy Story Land. There was a guy outside with a sign that said Lightning Lane starts here. And it was so confusing because we walked through and the standby was literally empty. We walked through the Lightning Lane on an empty standby. And what had happened was the ride shut down for a while. And someone had gotten sick in the queue, which is impressive in its own right. How do you get sick in the queue for Toy Story Mania? Anyway,
in that person's defense, they were probably sick from eating something and happened to be like they ate something, got in line, and then that's when they got sick.
Right. So that's fair. That's kind of whatever. That's not the point. It's like the Lightning Lane was the only thing running because they had shut down the ride, but they had to honor the Lightning Lanes. This happened for Frozen too, is we used all our Lightning Lanes for the day and we just got in line for Frozen. And we were like, okay, the sign said like 60-minute wait. Sure, whatever. It's the last thing of the day. Let's just hop in line and go do it. It ended up being closer to 2 hours because the ride was down earlier that day, and so everyone that had the Lightning Lane while it was down, they had to honor it because they paid for it. And so the Lightning Lane started, like, the ratio changed where they were using double of the Lightning Lane people, and it doubled the standby wait. And so it's a really broken system that I don't really have the solution for, other than don't sell so many freaking Lightning Lanes. But they're not going to do that because they're making an insane amount of money. Because if you go for if you go to Disney World for a week, and you bring like your whole family, that's like $2,000 in just Lightning Lane, which is absolute just robbery. It's highway robbery, but it's also become a necessity to have a good time at Disney World and do everything you want to do. So it's really like kind of putting you between a rock and a hard place. So I don't know. I think they need to sell less and make the price lower, because $15 a day a person is one thing, because then you get unlimited Lightning Lanes until they sell out. But it's the additional money that's like $28 a person. That's what's insane, to still wait in line. So if they sell less for a lower price, that makes it, not to say it's exclusive, but it makes it more exclusive, and it makes the Lightning Lane more efficient and puts it back in that original Fast Pass idea. but it's just the demand is too high, and so we're kind of stuck. So I expect to see another retooling of this system very soon, which sucks because they've retooled it like 800 times at this point. But I don't know what to do with it. That's kind of my soapbox for this episode is I don't really know what to do with Lightning Lane. I don't know how to fix it.
So I'd like to introduce two points or caveats. One being that one of the bigger issues with Lightning Lane, and I don't know if you experienced this or not, is even if you pay in $15 a day per person per day, that doesn't guarantee you get to use a Lightning Lane for every single ride. Because if I'm at like Hollywood Studios and I pay $15 to get access to the Lightning Lanes, by the time I get around to Tower of Terror, they could be out of Tower of Terror fast passes for the day.
That's what happened to us.
And
that's what happened.
And they can't do anything about that. I can't do anything about that. So if I bought it specifically to get a Lightning Lane for Tower of Terror and it's gone, now I've wasted that $15, but they still got it from me. So it's like it's almost like a lottery in a sense, because you're paying into a system for a chance of getting something. Now, there are ways to work around and have, because like right now I think you can only have one active at a time, which is really stupid. But if you're a resort guest, because we did this when I was there for my graduation trip in 2022. Wow, I can't just say last year. That's crazy.
Wow, that's kooky.
But when we were there, if you're a resort guest, you get your first Lightning Lane at 7, and then you get another one when the park opens. So if you make your reservation at 7 and you have one, you also get a second slot at 8 or 9, whatever the park opens. But here's the little trick to get a third one, is you make your first booking for any time after the park opens. So the later in the day you can go, the better. And then the second one gets to go, because it refreshes every 2 hours. So if you can make that first one for any time after that 2 hours, so you hold your first spot, then you make your second one when the park opens, and then after that 2 hour mark, you make your third one. And now you have 3 open Genie Plus slots. Yeah. And you can just keep filling. And you got to be really careful, because if you do it wrong, it'll delete one of the slots because it's technically not supposed to be there. But there is a way to fish around the system and fix it. But then again, it shouldn't be this complicated.
No.
It was a lot easier, even when it was paper passes or like, I remember back when I went with my choir in 2019, you could make all 3 of your fast passes for the day. And that was it. Like, you could do it from your phone. And that was a much easier system, because now you can kind of plan out your whole day based around when you have these fast passes for. And I don't know why they changed the system so much, because now it's needlessly confusing. You have to have so many people explain it to you, and it still doesn't make any sense. So I wish they would go back to the old system and make it free. And because here's the thing, if people aren't buying Genie Plus, they're going to spend more money on food, on merch. Disney's still getting that money either way. It's not like they weren't getting that money. But, you know, it is what it is. The second thing I'm going to add, and not like, I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit. You did go during a holiday season.
No, you're right.
So that definitely affects your experience specifically. I'm not saying it makes the experience any worse or better, but it definitely affects it, because like when we went in the summer, it wasn't that bad because it was the middle of the summer. You went at New Year's.
Right.
Like, so
granted, we did go over, we were there over New Year's, and that adds to the crowd, and it adds to the capacity, and it adds to the need, and that definitely affects it. But I also think, like, you know, when you go to Disney is really just kind of when you can go. Like, it's not really like, you know, of course I would love to go in the middle of February when absolutely no one's there, but like I have school. And so it's kind of like, you know, regardless of when you go, it shouldn't be so insanely complicated that you need to watch 10 video essays on how to enjoy your trip. And this is why a lot of people don't like Disney, which I wholeheartedly understand, because if you essentially didn't grow up there, it feels like a mental exercise. It's not a vacation,
Yes,
it's a
100%.
trip. And so, like, we clocked 25,000 steps a day. Like, got up at 6:30 to, like, get ready for that lightning lane and be ready for rope drop at parks. Like, it's not a vacation, but it was the best trip I had at Disney. It was phenomenal. We had such a great time. It was just really frustrating because the lightning lane was so complicated. Now, we did get to ride everything we wanted to, but at a very high expense. Like,
Right.
from the wallet and mentally. Like, it's an exercise to get the right lightning lanes. Like you just explained, it's very complicated. So that's kind of that was a rant I've been holding in for a very long time because I wanted to share it here.